What's up, everyone? This is a Vod review of Invictus Gaming's 15-minute speedrun of the 2013 game SK Telecom. Let's hop into it. Looking at the pick bans so far, IG is going to have their kind of typical for the group stage so far anti 131 bans, basically looking to set up a really solid 131 and removing kind of the major tools in the Tom Kench and the Galio that would allow another team to effectively counter the 131 without having superior solo lanes. So just looking at the bans, you could say that immediately off the bat, IG is looking to have stronger solo lanes and look to 131 to win out the game in that manner. SKT's bans on the other side are kind of the traditional anti-IG bans. Two of those really strong solo laners we were just talking about in the Akali and the Jace. Those would have been very strong for an IG 131 attempt. And on top of Balon's Rakan is very well known, he's the skin for it, and it is one of, if not the main, engage supports that are available, and that would allow IG to do kind of what IG wants to do best, and just kind of hard engage constantly, especially through Balon. Thing to notice, which we'll get there eventually, but Taric is not banned. Going into this, SKT as the red side does have the final ban, and they do choose to ban the Akali as their final ban. This is a champion that you could strongly consider to be very weak into the Taric Sona bottom lane. It is a champion that can't punish them before 6 very well, because Akali herself is weak at that stage. And once she does get to a point where she can start to look to blow up squishies, the Taric and the Sona have scaled up to a point where they have that healing, that shielding, and those defensive ultimates to stop that from happening. So an Akali ban, if you're looking to pick up Taric Sona, isn't really where you want to be. On top of that, or you could also argue that SKT is maybe looking to give away Taric Sona, seeing as they themselves didn't ban it, and IG does have first pick, which means IG would have the opportunity to take the Taric Sona, but you could very easily say Taric Sona isn't in IG style, it's not something we've ever seen them play. SKT probably has scrimmed against them and may or may not have known them to pick Taric Sona. That could be why they chose to leave it up. They could know that IG is bad at Taric Sona, or that IG doesn't play Taric Sona. Either way, IG leaves up the Taric Sona, SKT leaves up Taric Sona, and then bans Akali, a champion that you don't really see picked with Taric Sona or against Taric Sona, so it's an interesting choice of ban. But moving into the picks, obviously Taric Sona isn't banned. You would probably expect to see it come out because it has up until this point been considered and proven to be incredibly overpowered. Either way, IG pick up the first pick Rise. It is hotly contested. IG themselves have first picked it a number of times on blue side. It is an incredibly valuable flex pick, and it is something you start to look towards for that powerful 131. It's great at 131, really solid team fighting, really strong lane, perfect blind pick, perfect way to try to evade that top lane counter pick by flexing such a powerful champion. SKT respond by picking up the Taric, locking in the Taric Sona bot lane. They are guaranteed to get the Sona because they do have another pick, and picking Sona into Taric to try and stop the duo from happening really leaves you up to them just picking something like the Draven or some other aggressive AD carry that can really punish the weak, squishy, defenseless Sona in the early game. So once you lock in the Taric, you're pretty much guaranteed to get the Sona, so instead of going for both of the picks in the first rotation, SKT does elect to pick up the Aurelia. Now, when you're picking a Taric Sona strategy, you generally are looking to have specifically engage and dive from the other members. That's going to be why we see a Hecarim ban coming out of IG, coming into the second set of picks, and that's kind of generally the style. The Taric is able to center his ult around 2 targets, and it is best used if you center the ult around yourself defensively, protecting your backline and the Sona and that half of your team, and having the other half of that ultimate being coming in onto a dive champion, so that you have someone who is able to go in and put threat onto the enemy backline, onto the enemy team, and basically force the enemy to drop a bunch of damage and CC into the Taric ultimate. Because if you are unable to have any real dive with your Taric ultimate in that manner, the enemy can just can bait it, see it come out, and then just walk away. So you want to have dive, you want to have things like the Hecarim, like the Aurelia, like this Lee Sin that they're going to pick up later, so that you're able to effectively use Taric ultimate. Either way, IG responds with Draven Nautilus. This is going to be their answer to the terrifying Taric Sona of Legend. And this pretty much announces, hey, we're going to dive your bot lane. Taric Sona, weak in the early game. Draven Nautilus, very strong in the early game. This is IG saying, yes, okay, you can have Taric Sona. We know you're going to outscale us. We don't care. We're going to win early. And we are going to do that by hard diving your bottom lane. We are going to get up in your face, have a lot of CC and tankiness, and just pure base stats in the early game so that we can dive your bottom lane. SKT should recognize this, and they should say, okay, the way we lose this game is we fall too far behind early, and they dive our bottom lane. So we need to plan and strategize to stop that from happening. They go into the second round of picks. We see dive junglers being banned out from the side of IG. Makes a lot of sense knowing there's a Taric Sona going on. The Kindred ban is a little more interesting. There are other dive junglers, something like the Jarvan, although SKT bans Jarvan for some strange reason when they have first pick. But Kindred ban is a good counter dive champion, and is something that you could take to try and slow down any sort of snowball that IG might be trying to get going. It's an interesting choice of jungle ban, considering Jarvan should have been the ban, but SKT was nice and banned it themselves, and Lee Sin also did choose to leave available. But it's a acceptable decision so far, even though we haven't actually seen a Kindred come out really this entire tournament. SKT, on the other hand, bans Jarvan, a champion that they would love to pick because they want dive, they want early pressure to defend their bottom lane, and they want engage. That's exactly what Jarvan provides. Jarvan would fit very, very well into what SKT is trying to do. This is, however, Clid, very famous for his Lee Sin, so it is understandable why they would want to go for the Lee Sin. And thus, banning the Jarvan makes some amount of sense, but really, you're the ones who are going to be looking to dive, so picking the Jarvan to have that early Jarvan power would probably have been a stronger pick in this situation. However, Lee Sin does, to some extent in the early game, fulfill that same role, so it is excusable. They also are going to ban Fiora. This is something that the Shy has played a lot of, and it is considered a counter to the Aurelia, so it's understandable. However, it is not a dive champion. Fiora is a scaling champion. Fiora is a 1-3-1 champion. You already know, based on these bottom lane picks, that IG's game plan is to hard dive bottom lane and win the game through that. That's been pretty clearly communicated at this point, and a Fiora ban doesn't do anything to stop that. So when you know what the enemy is trying to do, you should be devoting resources to trying to stop them from doing that. And SKT chooses to instead ban Fiora. Not strictly ideal. They could have banned an actual dive champion, maybe. They could have banned Kennen, or they could have banned the Camille, which they weren't going to ban Camille. Nobody was expecting a Camille to come out, but it's something they could have considered. So, lock in the Sylas, really strong solo lane. This is SKT still saying, okay, we know that you like to 1-3-1, so we're going to pick the strong solo lanes to stop you from 1-3-1ing, and Sylas also can kind of dive, which does to some extent synergize with Sona Taric, and Sylas would be strong against Sona Taric because they do provide him very powerful ultimates to steal. So we want to take away the Sylas and take the Sylas for ourselves. Arguably, they could have banned it instead of the Fiora, but it's a fine pick. It is a counter to the 1-3-1 strategy out of IG, and it is not much of a counter to the early game dive strategy out of IG, because Sylas does not necessarily provide much defensive pressure towards the bottom lane or even in the mid lane. So it is not necessarily the ideal pick here, but they are, as it turns out, they do end up sending the Aurelia into the middle lane. So as far as the top lane matchup goes, Sylas is a really solid blind pick, and it puts yourself in a position where, at the very least, neither of your solo lanes are going to get countered. You're not getting that pressure that would help allow you to defend your very weak early bottom side, but at least your solo lanes theoretically are not also going to get destroyed. IG follows it up with a Kennen, kind of solid counter pick to Sylas, I suppose. There are better champions that you could have played. I am personally not a big fan of Kennen. But into Sylas with Jace and Akali both off the table, it is a perfectly acceptable top lane pick, especially if you are not looking for a tank really, and you are trying to have early game power, early game pressure. Kennen does provide that. So Kennen in general is a champion that I am not particularly a fan of, but going into this IG team composition where you already have elected to have all of your eggs in the early game victory basket, that's the kind of composition that Kennen can fit into well, because that is when Kennen is strong. IG also follows up with the surprise Camille, and if this has not, in case the Draven Nautilus did not communicate to SKT that IG wanted to hard dive the bottom lane, the Camille pick really has got to drive the point home. When you see this Camille pick come through, you say, okay, Camille's main weaknesses as a jungler are that she does not scale particularly well, which is fine, that's what IG is expecting, and that she farms very poorly. If you are SKT, you have to be coming into this game saying, okay, the IG win condition is they are going to hard dive bottom lane. Camille is going to spend all of her time on the bottom side of the map, and we need to do whatever we can to stop her from getting effective ganks and to stop her from getting early kills. Because if she doesn't, she's going to fall off. She's not going to be able to keep up and farm. And honestly, it is okay if Clid also gives up a massive amount of farm in trying to stop this Camille. That's okay. It is okay if Clid is also completely useless in the late game. Because as long as Teddy and Mata are online, you're golden. You've already outscaled. You've already won, right? So Clid should be looking to go into this game to shadow Ning as much as possible, basically try and sit on top of the Camille, sit pretty much in the bottom lane for the entire first 5 minutes of the game, and just not let anything happen. Don't let IG get an unfair fight in the bottom lane. Be there to disengage, stop anything from happening, and try and get your bot lane through this aggressive counter, I say counter lightly, but aggressive counter matchup of the Draven Nautilus with this hard engage. IG has already communicated to SKT that they are looking to hard dive bottom lane. So SKT needs to be planning around that. Anyway, as we get into the game, we're going to see 5-man stacks onto the bot side of the map. Again, what we expected. Bot side, bot side, bot side is going to be the motto of this game. And SKT get kind of gifted this wonderful thing that is the Nautilus coming into this bush and missing. So when this happens, you as IG, they did see SKT walking into the bush, so they know that SKT is in this vicinity. But as IG, you have to say, okay, we threw the hook into the bush. The hook missed. That would imply that the members of SKT have backed out of the bush. That is not the case. And SKT is going to be able to, as a response, come back into the bush and get this really beautiful multi-man stun here. Now, SKT gets baited by this. This is a mistake, for sure, from IG. And it is IG kind of gifting a lot of early advantage and possibly an early first blood over to SKT, and SKT gets a little bit baited by this, and we're going to see Teddy, who is completely alone on the squishiest early game champion in the game. And he has two incredibly powerful level 1 champions between him and this fight, and he's going to attempt to walk right through them. We can watch as this happens, and Teddy has to immediately burn barrier, gets stunned, gets rooted, and levels Q. So, Sona typically, going into laning phase, wants to start with Q because it allows her to harass back, it allows her to proc the Kleptomancy effectively. However, going into a level 1 5v5, your Q is not going to do much. Your Q is going to give you that slight AoE damage reduction from the AoE aura, and maybe do a little bit of damage, compared to leveling the W when you already know you're going to be taking a huge chunk of damage walking through these two very strong early game members, so that you can get to heal, get the shield out of that, would be a much stronger option, and would have possibly led to Teddy surviving this. Alternatively, not walking face first into a Camille and a Draven as a level 1 Sona was an option that Teddy did choose to forego. So, Teddy will die, Rookie will die, it's an even 1-for-1 trade, and then Ning and Faker are going to trade flashes here, and Rookie is going to waste his teleport coming into a play that's dead. Rookie should know that this play is dead. He should know that that flash trade is going to happen, and not waste his teleport here. That was unnecessary. And at this point, it's an even trade. Things are looking to be fine for the most part. We do have both of Teddy's summoners down, Modest heal is down. We already knew that IG's game plan was to hard dive bottom lane, and then Mata will also face check this bush completely alone and have to burn his flash. Yet another kind of early mistake from SKT. So far, everything that could have gone right for Invictus Gaming has gone right. They made an early mistake by walking into that bush in blindly assuming that SKT had vacated it simply because the Nautilus hook missed, and SKT in response burned into the Sona, directly into Draven and Camille, burned all of the bot lane summoners in Teddy getting caught and Mata then blindly face checking the bush, and allowed IG into their jungle to get some early jungle vision and jungle control. So already 0 summoners on the bottom lane of SKT, hard dive look on the side of IG. We knew this is what they were wanting to do. SKT opted into that early game fight that cost them their summoners. That was a major mistake. You need to have your bot lane summoners available. So, moving in to now mid lane, Faker has, it would seem, already forgotten the Camille jungle meta and wasn't expecting the level 2. So, Faker, who also lost his flash, against a Camille who traditionally ganks mid level 2, you really ought to expect it. Faker's just there, and Faker gets rooted, and Faker gets stunned, and Faker dies. And now Clid, immediately after, is going to get caught out. Let's take a quick look at this. Immediately after the mid lane gank, in which Faker disrespected the heavily scripted level 2 Camille mid lane gank and died because he burned his flash in that really ill-advised level 1 skirmish. After that play, SKT watched Ning walk out of mid lane and into the river. So they knew that he was then moving on from that play to take the Scuttle Crab. Clid should know what Camille as a champion is capable of into this matchup. Clid should know that Ning would be looking to move towards bot lane to possibly dive bot lane, because that is the entire game plan of Invictus Gaming. Clid should not be in a position to allow Ning on top of him and to chunk him out and force him away from this bot lane dive. Because this happens, Clid gets chunked out. Clid is late to this play because he had to walk away from the Camille. And again, still in Summoner's bottom lane, Teddy dies again. Clid, attempting to respond, does trade his life for Mata's. This may or may not be a mistake. Neither of Mata can, to some extent, defend some turret plates here, and Clid may or may not have been able to. Either way, really poorly executed. SKT should have known that that is exactly where Camille was going. It was really telegraphed. But they disrespect it, Clid gets chunked out, and the bot lane dive is a 2-for-1, but still a successful dive. So, we are now 3 minutes into the game. Draven is a BF sword. There are still no flashes on the SKT bottom lane, and so far things have gone about as terribly as they could have for SKT, right? In this bot lane reset, Ning gets a nice, easy clear of his topside jungle, and then can just walk right back to bottom side, and Clid needs to be there to match him. However, because Clid died on that play, Clid is late to the clear. Clid goes for the scuttle crab and for vision in the river, and as a result, Clid is late coming down from that play. Clid is still topside when the return gank mid happens. SKT was moving their bot lane mid. They perhaps expected this and were late to the play because Clid had died in that play, and Teddy had also died and was late on that rotation compared to Baolan. Perhaps Faker felt secure in the lane because he knew that his bot lane was on the way. However, it's blatant disrespect. They knew the play was coming. They were already rotating to counter it, but Faker was anyway standing too far forward. They did a poor job of tracking where Ning could have been. My guess would be erroneously assuming that Ning would be at roughly the same spot Clid would be, even though Ning was out on the map a little bit sooner. And Faker dies for it. Past that, SKT then get caught in rotation moving back to their turret. We already knew that IG's game plan was dive bot, and it makes a lot of sense when there's already a minion wave moving onto the turret for IG to opt to travel to the turret through the jungle, forcing SKT away from the turret, which they cannot defend at this point. SKT do not predict this and choose to walk to the turret instead of behind the turret, and as a result, walk right through IG on accident, and Mata dies now. So, we're at 5 minutes and 30 seconds into this game. The bottom lane is completely untenable. There is no real way for Teddy to get back in this game, because in order for the Frost Queen's claim Sona to scale up, get that item upgraded to get the extra vision to get to a position where that is efficient, Sona has to spend time in lane, interacting with other people. This Sona cannot spend time in lane anymore because of how incredibly far behind compared to the Draven she is. There is now no realistic way for this Sona to get into the game effectively. The only thing that SKT could feasibly do is try and somehow get multiple kills onto Khan or onto Faker such that one of your solo laners can try desperately to hold against the Draven, and then send Sona to deal with the Ryze or the Kennen or someone who is not so remarkably far ahead of her that she cannot interact and cannot proc her Spell Thief's Hand, cannot get that gold generation that the Sona needs in order to actually come online and be impactful. But it's really easy for IG not to do that. It's really easy to not randomly die 1v1 when you're already winning elsewhere on the map, right? This game is already untenable on the side of SKT. It is a 50% gold lead for IG at 7.5 minutes. It is, at this point, fairly easy for IG to close out the game, and all it really takes is Draven alone in a lane, taking up 2 people from SKT, so that the rest of the map can start to kind of share in that gold from the Draven. We're going to see Faker now dying again. This is Camille fully online. We can go back and take a look at this play, but why is Faker there? You know Balon is in bot lane, right? You have vision of the bottom lane because the minions are shoved all the way to the turret. You know Rookie isn't in lane for some reason. You know he's not on a recall because look at his mana pool. He's not close to a recall timing. Look at his items. He's not recalling for another minute or two, at least another few waves. You obviously don't know where Ning is. Why are you pushed this far up in the lane? You know that the other bottom lane is coming off of a recall, right? Balmon could be anywhere. You also know he's not bot lane because there's no play to be made bot lane. There's no reason for Balon or Ning to be anywhere near the bottom lane. You also know that they've been playing bot side the entire game, are not liable to change that, and you know that your jungler is top lane. Which means A, you should expect a play to be made on the mid lane. You are the obvious target. B, not only that, you should expect that play to be made from the bottom side of the map, from this direction. So even if you feel the need to shove out this wave, you shouldn't be doing it from here. You should be doing it from way over here where Faker doesn't run until he's already seen the members of IG coming for him. This is a misplay from Faker. He looks to almost get out, but Camille is a great champion, and Faker goes down. He could actually have feasibly just left there instead of choosing to re-engage onto Ning. I'm not sure if that would have worked because there was no Nautilus ult and no Camille ult going into that play. But now, basically what IG can do is they can park Draven in preferably the top lane, but they choose to leave him bottom lane. And what I would like to see IG doing is rotating Draven up to the top lane, use that power to take down all of the turret plates on this top turret and take the Rift Herald for free and then use that mid lane. They do choose instead to have the Draven just play solo bot, eat up a solo laner's worth of pressure, and then allow the other members of IG to just hard 4-man the rest of the map, holding down and limiting the amount of gold that is available to the members of SKT, and just kind of continually skirmishing and continually fighting. It is riskier to take this play because you are leaving a squishy Draven all alone, and you are fighting with your weaker members. However, this is what IG is good at. And this does still use the strength of the Draven, just in a different way. So, SKT rotates in with the non-existent Tona Taric, burns their flashes once again, and that's now, once again, a easy target for turret dives on the side of IG. We're seeing the Draven doing, 3-0, Bloodthirster, Draven things. And it's hard to find much more to analyze in this game because it honestly is already over. IG absolutely could be doing a better job of claiming these turret plates. Let's skip right through this pause here. They absolutely could be pushing this advantage further, but this isn't something really that teams practice. This isn't something that comes up in scrims, right? You don't find yourself with this kind of lead in a scrim and then continue to play out the game and practice. Okay, how do we close out the game when we have a 5k gold lead at 10 minutes? You don't find yourself in a scrim on the other side saying, oh, their Draven is 3-0 and has a Bloodthirster and a BF sword at 10 minutes, and we've lost bot lane turret with all 5 turret plates and the Drake, and there's an Infernal spawning, and we're going to lose Rift Herald too. How do we play against this? You don't You don't scrim that because these situations don't come up often enough for it to be worth it. On top of that, these situations don't come up often enough and still allow you the opportunity to win the game for practicing in this situation to be worth it. So both teams are going to naturally be a little bit lost here. SKT very clearly doesn't know what to do with Teddy and Mata. They don't have a safe place on the map. There really is nowhere for them to go, and it shows. They're just kind of blindly wandering around, not picking up any CS, not really picking up waves at all, and not being able to accomplish anything. Teddy's level 6 and Jackie Love is level 8, and that's going to continue. On top of that, IG is also showing they're not really sure what to do. Normally, you don't want to rotate your bottom lane out of the bottom lane until you get to that 14-15 minute mark. But we've already taken the turret. We're so strong. We want to maintain this laning phase and keep pushing this advantage. But there's more turret plates in the mid lane, but we want Draven bot lane for some reason. So it's pretty clear that neither team really knows what to do in this situation, because they both kind of got here by accident and they're both not practiced in this situation. And we still haven't seen Jackie Love go top, which is where he should be. He's mid now, which is better than bottom lane. They are now initiating the 1-3-1, which we were expecting out of IG going into this game. And they're starting to make those moves. They're going to pick up this mid turret. They do elect to waste the Rift Herald on it, when with the Shy rotating in, having that inside track compared to Khan, with Faker kind of just sitting up in the top lane, they were guaranteed to pick up that turret anyway. They could have saved the Rift Herald. They could have picked up that turret, rotated their 3 members top, dropped the Rift Herald top, and picked up the turret plates top as well. That would have been additional gold going over to the side of IG. However, with their significant lead, they do choose to drop it mid lane instead. This is, I believe, a questionable rotation. The game would have been cleaner, it would have been less risky, and it would have been the more consistent play to instead just take the mid outer and then rotate top and just drop their field there, putting an even more significant gold advantage onto your Draven or maybe one of your solo laners, depending on how you choose to allocate that gold. And really putting SKT in a position where the gold is so insurmountable that they can no longer come back. They already are in such a position, to be fair, but it would have been a cleaner series of events. They do instead opt to use the Rift Herald to try and break open the base very, very early. This is questionable and it is risky. You're signing up for a possible 5v5 fight, which is what happens, and it goes even, which is not what IG is looking to do. They do pick up 2 turrets and an inhibitor. At 12.5 minutes, picking up mid-inhib is not necessarily a good thing. There was a game back in, I think it was Season 3 Worlds was the last time I saw an inhibitor drop this early. And what can happen is if you are then unable to take control of the game from there, because Baron isn't going to spawn for another 7.5 minutes, right? There isn't really a reason for the other team to leave their base. So if you are unable to actually push through and end the game and or take another inhibitor or 2 in the next 5 minutes while that inhib is down, what you've effectively done is given over a bunch of free farm to the enemy. They had to be mid lane anyway. It's mid lane. By taking the inhib, the wave is now going to continually crash into them, and you've handed them a free freeze, basically. So unless you are able to convert that mid inhib into other inhibs immediately, which is very difficult to do this early in the game, taking the inhibitor this early is risky, especially considering there are still inner turrets here, outer turrets here, which make it even harder to convert this inhibitor into yet another inhibitor. Either way, IG does elect to go for the early inhib, but first we'll have this fight. Let's back up so we can see a little bit of how it gets started. Rookie is already a little bit low, and Balon does get chunked leading into this play. So Balon is chunked, and Rookie right here, right as the shield falls off, takes a turret shot. So Rookie is also chunked, which opens up a pathway for Faker to dive in and for the two of them to hard commit to burst down Rookie. On the face of it, this looks like a solid play. You're getting a kill, the fight ends up a 2-for-2 trade because you were able to burst down Rookie like that. Good job. That doesn't matter. The only relevant member of Invictus Gaming is Jackie Love. And if you are committing anything to kill anybody who is not Jackie Love, you're losing the fight with this kind of gold advantage on the side of IG. On top of that, if you commit everything onto Jackie Love and don't kill him, you're also losing this fight. If, by some miracle, you are able to burst down Jackie Love before he is able to get much damage off, that is when you start to enter the realm of, okay, maybe SKT can actually get a good fight off. You are advantaged in the sustained fights if Jackie Love is dead. You have the Terexona to kind of make that happen. However, Jackie Love isn't the one who got chunked. Jackie Love has a Bloodthirster sealed. So SKT does commit onto Rookie. This is not a fight that they can win, really. They go for it anyway because they are to some extent forced to, but it is not a fight that they can win. IG choose to fight in the IG style, which is to take the split fight. Have Cannon up here absorbing the pressure, and then your backline, your other members can win on their side and take this chaotic fight, take the split fight, and then you can rotate up to help Kennen in his engage because you have enough damage to burst down the members that are on your side. This is also a mistake. If you're IG, yes, you have a skirmishy comp with Camille and Kennen and Nautilus and all of that. However, you've got the game into a state where your Draven is up a massive amount of gold. Almost all of your gold lead, well, the vast majority of your gold lead is on your AD carry, which means that the ideal way to fight these team fights for IG is actually the classic Protect the King. You have this all-powerful mighty Draven, and the only way that you can ever conceivably lose a team fight is if the Draven dies. So the ideal way really for IG to be fighting is just protect the Draven, fight full-on front to back. Yes, you have a 1-3-1 comp and they have a better front to back comp. That doesn't matter. Your front to back is unstoppable because you are so far ahead. So going for the split fight is a mistake. As a result, the Shy does just die. The fight is still a victory for IG, even though it is a 2-for-2 trade because Jackie Love is untouched. Jackie Love can just walk right into the base. There is nothing SKT can do about it. Both of their dive champions are dead. They have no way onto him. The inhib falls. IG is able to come right off of this to pick up the Infernal Drake, which is mighty nice for the 5-0 Draven to pick up at this point in the game. But that Infernal Drake was always going to happen. IG could have, without taking the risks of this kind of early inhibitor take or this 2-for-2 fight trade, IG could have burned the Rift Herald top, taken a bunch of turret plates, still picked up the Infernal, been in an arguably better spot. As is, we're at almost 10k gold. There is an inhibitor down, and as you and I both know, this game is going to end in another 2 minutes. We don't need to see the replay of this fight. We've already discussed it, and at this point, the call to rotate for bot is, to some extent, expected. Baron isn't up for another 6 minutes, so there isn't really any reason to pressure top. You have the inhibitor down, and if you want to take full advantage of that, that means trying to pin SKT in their base as much as possible, and you already have bot outer turret, which means it's just somewhat faster to focus down bot inner rather than trying to kill top outer and top inner. On top of that, top outer is a much safer split push target for the Shy. It will be a guaranteed turret, and it's so far away from SKT's base that they cannot look to try and make a concerted dive onto the solo split pusher of IG. So, about rotation, is textbook. It's what you expect. It's what IG should be doing, and it is how you do actually try and close out this game. The Shy does take a recall there, which I would argue is questionable. There was not looking to be any real pressure on the top side for SKT. They were not looking to be in a position to send any members top. So recalling the Shy when he doesn't have teleport, I don't think is a wise choice. As a result, SKT does look to make a 5 versus 4 fight happen by engaging on to Rookie. So we did just talk about how the only way SKT can conceivably win a fight is if they can burst down Jackie Love. He is the only target on IG that matters. Clid flash kicks in Rookie. Rookie dies. And nobody cares. Because Jackie Love, once again, is untouched. It does not really matter if you can burst down random non-Jackie Love members of IG. It does not matter if it is a 4 versus 5 fight at this point. Jackie Love can 3v1. So they go burn their CC and burn their dive on the Rise again. The Draven is untouched. Solo wins the fight again. And because they had this inhibitor down that SKT wasn't answering, IG do just straight up win the game from that. So what can we learn from IG speedrunning SK Telecom? Well, for one, Sona Taric is beatable. That was immediately the first lesson. However, the way to beat Sona Taric is fairly predictable. Hard dive bot. It makes sense. Could IG have pulled this off if SKT hadn't completely bungled that level 1 fight and burned all their bot lane summoners at level 1? No. Could IG have done this if Clid had done a better job of paying attention to where Ning could be and done his job in defending against those bot lane dives? Probably not. Pretty much every single possible thing that could have gone wrong for SKT went wrong. They made every mistake they could have made. Faker disrespected the level 2 Camille gank, which was incredibly classic and incredibly scripted, and you need to expect that. Clid did not track Ning walking away from that gank and got chunked out in his jungle. And as a result of that and the bot lane not having their summoners, a successful bot lane dive came through. That was predictable. You could have seen that coming if you had really been paying attention. Could IG have played better? Yes, they took unnecessary risks. They were, to some extent, moving around the map in questionable ways, but that's understandable. SKT were doing the same thing, and neither of these teams has really been in this spot in practice, realistically. So, seeing a bit of an experience show there, that's fine. Does this game tell us much about the relative strength of these teams? Again, not particularly. Yes, you can say, wow, IG is so good, they absolutely destroyed SKT. That's not really relevant. SKT made a lot of very clear mistakes and played directly into what IG wanted to do. And it just so happened that what IG wanted to do was a strategy that lent itself towards this kind of stomp. If IG had not been able to stomp SKT in the early game, this would have been an SKT win. So the fact that IG stomped is not really a good litmus test for how strong these teams are in comparison to each other. The fact that SKT made such obvious early mistakes does, however, inform us a little bit on how strong SKT as a 5-man squad is, and it doesn't really look great. IG, on the other hand, they picked a linear strategy, and it worked out for them. Props to them. They seemed prepared for Sona Taric. They played it well. They were moving a bit weirdly in the mid game, but it worked out for them in the end, so I cannot really fault them. Mistakes on both sides, to be sure, significantly more on the side of SKT, which they will have to shore up moving into the playoffs, moving into the knockout stage. Really interesting, kind of a one-of-a-kind game on an international stage. Fun to look at. Interesting stuff going on. This has been Vod Review of IG Speedrunning SK Telecom. I'm John Valentine. Thanks for watching.